Shut up and sit down.
Hey, what's happening, guys? This is the Takeover Tuesday show, episode 7. My name's Carlos Redlich, and this is David Allen. What's up, David?
Hey, how's it going, Carlos? Episode number 7. Looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we were going to have a big name copywriter on here today, but we've had to reschedule that and push that to next week.
Yep.
Those people expecting Mr. Haddad will have to wait one more week, and there's your tension and drama.
Yeah. Well, it's 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning, some early time wherever he's at. So, we just have to reschedule probably a better time. But we're kind of, it's funny. I'm over here in Miami, and I just met up with a few of my buddies, and he met me, just introduced me to some new people. And we were kind of talking about closing the sale, and these guys it was a really cool mastermind, because one guy owns he's a successful, at least I think he broke over $100,000 or whatever in his tattoo shop or whatever. So he's like, I like it, whatever, fuck this though, because he's like, the most I can make is $200,000, and I'm fucking sitting there all day. I want to do some online shit, I don't want to be doing this all day. So that was cool, right? And then we talked with another guy who I think they're in private equity groups, and so they deal with a whole bunch of different type of business shit that I don't really do, you know what I mean? But the one common thread was that they were having issues with closing, and just kind of wanted to get, like, how do you close? Like, what is the big thing, and why aren't people closing? So for one of the examples, my buddy had a salesperson that was going out and trying to do sales, or he was doing sales, but he was doing really great openers, I guess. But the thing that was kind of shooting him in the leg was that he couldn't close and shut down the deal. So, I mean, in business, we got to close the deal. And one of the biggest things I asked him, I was like, well, are you fully confident in what you're selling? Like, would you put your mom into the business? If she was a customer, would you trust your business to handle her right? If the answer is no, and you're not your own first recommendation, you're not fully confident in that, then that's why you're not closing. You know what I mean? It's hard to close somebody hard and drive home a hard sale, or push somebody, because there's nothing wrong with pushing them. You're just pushing them to make a good decision if it's something that's good for them. But we went over that, and it was a funny, it's a little thing. It was so funny because it's just having the confidence that you're actually able to provide the service and your name will look good. Just doing that, it almost instantly, without any scripts, gives that person a little bit more of a backbone to be like, hey, you know what? I know once we get them on board, they will be happy. There's no questions if they're going to want a refund or hate me after or whatever. Once you kind of know that, I mean, it's a little bit more freeing, and now you can actually start pressuring them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there seems to be a lot of I don't know if there's a term for this, but there's like a seller's remorse. There's, it's like the opposite of buyer's remorse. There's like, you have something great you think is great. When you talk to the people who are providing the product, they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then when they go to talk to other people about it and close the deal, they don't want to ask or something because they feel they're being like sleazy or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very strange.
And once you're sold on it, we were going over like tactics, basically, like how to actually say stuff, like the nitty gritty type stuff. But I really like focusing on the principles, because when you go off the principle, you can figure out the tactic for yourself. If you just have the tactic, it's a little hard to, work backwards from that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So, but one of the things that I was coaching him to, so anybody listening to this or whatever, if you ever have to do a sale for yourself, or maybe you have people that do sales for you and they're struggling, well, one of the best ways to close people is doing an alternative close. And if you don't know what that is, it's really simple. It's basically saying, would you want this or do you want that? And the way I was trying to tell these guys was, I forget one of their consulting deals. I'm just going to make up a number because I really don't remember how much it was, but let's say it's like $75,000 or something, that's their fee. And they didn't have an alternative close. So I was like, well, you know what we can do? Why don't you just make up a fucking crazy pack? If you have to deliver on it, then that's awesome because you just got a lot more money, but you probably won't get it. But just make like, a $500,000 package or a $200,000 package. And so you can go ahead and at the end of the deal, you can just be as simple as saying, awesome. So now that you've listened to the whole thing, we've talked, we've gone over this. Do you think you'd want to go with our deluxe package, which is $500,000 and you get X, Y, Z, and whatever? It has actually so many benefits to it, and you get so much. I'll actually have to fax you over the entire sheet because it's impossible to list out. But those are some of the quick highlights. But really, what most of our clients start off with, really the most popular option, is the baby version, which is $75,000 to get rolling. And the highlights of that one is you get X, Y, and Z. So based on everything now, do you think you'd be more interested in going with the deluxe program or doing what everybody else does and just hop on the 75K one?
Right. That's a version, and I'm not sure who pioneered that. I'm sure it goes way back to the very days of bartering. But a very famous example of that is the Girl Guides.
The Girl Guides, what's that?
Yeah, well, the Girl Guides, the Girl Scouts.
Oh, okay.
Selling cookies. I think it's in Cialdini's book Influence, where he talks about them going to people's doors and asking for like a ridiculous amount of money for like to build a new clubhouse or to go on some trip or something, and then when people couldn't do that, they couldn't. They couldn't give them $3,000 at the door.
Cookies.
Yeah, then what could you do like you just said there? It's almost like, well, could you do these? That's like intro level stuff. How many cookies could you buy then? And then people bought a lot more cookies as a result.
That's fucking genius. Oh, I didn't know about that story. I love that.
Yeah, it's badass.
That is that's some slick little Girl Scouts, dude. What the fuck? I'd love to. They're gonna grow up like some real G's and gangster closers. That's amazing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and look at who's like in charge of different companies and stuff now that are female and who went through the Girl Guides, the Girl Scout program.
Yeah, wow, that would be really great. I'd be surprised if they don't actually track that, and figure out like what are they doing 10, 20 years later. I mean, you gotta wonder. That's pretty sick.
I'm gonna find somebody who's done that, and we'll have them on the podcast.
Yes, please. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. That's fucking cool. But that's it's funny. Everything that was the one commonality though across everything is you got whether we were talking about writing, because we started talking about once we did a lot of cold calling stuff yesterday in our little group. Right. And just kind of teaching them how to do it, and not just cold calling, but just selling and actually doing it, not in copy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but then we started translating it into copy, and I was like, listen, once you get your Facebook ad working, let's say that's converting, it's sending you a bunch of clicks and whatever. If you're not making sales, then it's not because the Facebook ad sucks. It's probably because your landing page that you're sending them to isn't resonating with what the Facebook ad promises. That might be one issue. I mean, there's different little things, but it comes down to the salesmanship and being able to close and shut down the sale, but being able to tap into those emotions that they're already thinking. It's just like a very famous copywriter who I don't remember the name of once said, entering the conversation in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you do. I mean, you do it in person, you do it on the phone. And I mean, personally, I think, just coming more from a phone selling background, I think that if you can sell on the phone, it's so much easier to do it in person. I mean, I've done both, but I just did a lot more phone sales. So I've always found that whenever I started doing the phone sales, I really was able to build trust with people just on my voice, just on a laugh, just on bringing my tone down and whatever it was, And when I was like, man, I'm not even seeing how they react to it. I'm just listening to them on the other phone, on the other line or whatever, on the other side, and seeing how they respond, but I can't see their face. And whenever I started basically applying the same, it's almost like hypnosis. I mean, it's like hypnotic words. So I would just say, picture this. I would start sometimes some of my meetings. Anytime I get an objection, I'm probably bouncing around, but anytime I would get an objection, I would always throw a short, or not always, but many times I would throw a short story. So for example, somebody would say, that's really expensive. That's a really pricey thing. Always agree. I mean, hey, I mean, I hear you, man. I'm with you. It is pricey. It is expensive. I remember when I was like, shoot, maybe 26 years old, I was building two gyms at the time. I remember I was trying to buy a website and I had to invest 5 grand for this website. I didn't have it. You know what I mean? I was driving, I was on food stamp. I had no money. And I just remember, hoping I could pay the light bill, hoping I could get some water and food in my belly. And,
Right.
so I mean, I understand what that's like, and sometimes it is a big upfront investment. But I'll tell you what, I am the man I am today because I took that decision. I took action on it. I got the website. I invested $5,000 because I didn't make all my money because of that website, but I got money from that made me make more. So that's an investment. I mean, are you in this for the long haul, or are you in this for kind of just a short term? If you're in
Right.
it for the
Right.
long haul, man, let's do it. I'm with you. Let's put down the 5K because you're going to throw it out. You're going to pay it one way or another. You're going to pay me. You're going to pay somebody else. You're going to do some. Doesn't matter. But let's do it right the first time.
Right.
And then let's get rolling because there's so much more we can do. We can do a lot of marketing stuff, and there's a lot, and this is kind of future pacing. We can do a lot of stuff after this deal. I want to be able to take care of your marketing, all the management stuff. You won't have to do anything. My goal is to earn your trust, build long-term relationship with you where I can just be your go-to person for everything relating to marketing, copywriting, salesmanship, and stuff like that. But let's get started on this one deal. Let's use this as a test pilot and let me earn your trust. I guarantee that if I don't make this $5,000 back to you within the next 365 days or 12 months or 1 year, you'll get all your money back because I'm so confident you're going to get it. Let's do this, man. Are you ready? Let's do it. I'm committed.
I'm ready, Carlos.
Let's do it. Visa or PayPal, man. You do, yeah, I'll send you over a PayPal. But it's funny because it doesn't even have to be. It's just got to be sold. There's no script. I've said it so many times, and people may have heard me on podcast or whatever, kind of doing this role play stuff. And I always do it now because I've been told how like education was. People tell me like, I really get this principle stuff when people say you should do this, you should make the customer spill their guts when you're interviewing them or whatever, and all this, but they don't know how to do it. And I think just kind of hearing the tactical part really, really goes a long way. So hopefully that'll help a few people too.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's maybe part of the problem with people is when it comes out of when they're thinking about it in their own head and they're thinking about how they sound and how they think it sounds coming out of their mouth, then they're kind of like, oh, this sounds pushy and whatever. But often when you hear it out of somebody else's mouth, especially if it's someone you don't even really know or it's just some sort of teacher or course you're going through or something, then you're like, oh, okay. That's how it sounds. That doesn't sound so bad. Or if you've been sold yourself, then you're like, well, I
Right.
bought.
Exactly. People love buying, they hate being sold. So, I mean, the key for anybody, if you're in business for yourself and you're not, I mean, if you're an employee, I still think everybody's going to be selling. You're selling yourself as an employee, you're selling yourself as an entrepreneur, whatever it is. But especially as an entrepreneur, you've got to focus on being able to shut down that deal and close it. Because if you're not able to do that, you're dependent on somebody else. You're dependent on maybe a partner. You're dependent on the internet, whatever it is. But I mean, if you lack the skill to go out, hunt your fucking food and kill it and eat it, then you're almost not really a man or a fucking human being that should survive back in the day. You have to be able to hunt down and kill and eat. If you're only able to hunt and spot it, but then you miss every time or you don't fucking do anything, like you get hungry, you start starving. So I think it's just it's it's something people have to accept because a lot of times I've seen people who can't close very well just want to pass that close and be like, hey, I'm really good at just opening. Let me stick to that. And then, this other guy will do the closing. And we're just, boom, I'll pass him off, pass him off, pass him off. And that's just not the way it works because
Right.
anybody in an intro, I can send my fucking niece to go intro. It doesn't matter. Like, an intro is nothing more than getting the person's attention and capturing it. The real magic is just fucking closing the deal. You don't get points as a guy for just hitting on a girl. You get points for getting her number. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. No, I
It's
think
crazy.
it is crazy. I think that it comes down to a lot of the things we've talked about on this podcast too, is just the fear of asking. Just just even if you're not the slick close, the slick closing salesman guy with all the tactics and the stuff that you've done 1,000 times in your head. Just simply
Right.
asking, let's do this today,
Yeah.
you know?
I had an old sales manager who always told me that if you are fucking up and you're getting nervous, always close. And to him or whatever it was, closing didn't mean you got a yes. Closing just means you asked and got a definite yes or a definite no, right?
Yeah,
You didn't just kind of maybe, right? So
right.
if you're for like feeling awkward, and especially in face-to-face sales, especially for me in the beginning, I would just start sweating in front of people, hyperventilating on. I
Right.
mean, I was fucking horrible. And then I just remember being like, listen, do you just want to buy this? And like, no. I mean, hey, I appreciate the time, dude. Thanks. I'm like, fuck it. And the guy, I remember my sales manager telling me, good, you closed. Okay, next person. But you've got to, if you don't close, he'll be go do 20 push-ups on the ground or go run around the fucking, I don't know, street, or he'd make some stupid shit up as punishments. But it's funny,
No, it
So
is
just
funny.
it's crazy stuff. But once people just accept reality, you got to learn to close. You got to be able to, everybody's a salesman. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're just trying to not educate yourself on the skills needed to fucking shut down a deal. Because that shit's not, it's not a talent, it's a skill.
It is a skill. And I think there's there's like a movie quote, which I think comes from, I want to say like Boiler Room or maybe Glengarry Glen Ross or one of these movies where they said, a sale is made on every call. Either you're selling them
Or they're
what
selling
you're
you.
putting, or they're selling you and why they're not going to get it. And it really
I
is
love
that simple. That's a great way of saying it.
No, that's 100%. And it's just, I don't know, man. I've tried to kind of figure out what it is about people that makes them not want to do, because I understand the fear of it. I mean, for years I used to be told that I'll probably not be able to do it. Like, when I was at a martial arts school, my instructor at the time, I was so bad I couldn't even open my mouth to talk to people, or even do it on the phone. He would be like, you know what? Maybe you just shouldn't fucking don't even do this. Just teach class. Don't even, like,
Right.
just stay away. So I was really bad. I've had so many people now be like, oh yeah, but you've been branding yourself and now people know your name. I'm like, dude, I just started fucking branding myself like 6, 7 months ago. No one knew who I was 7 months ago. And it has nothing to do with it. You just got to be able to get over your fucking fears, get out of your comfort zone and do it. I mean, all of this talking shit I would have never been able to do 10 or 15 years ago. I wouldn't have even been able to hop on this podcast or have a Facebook, because I'd be like, I don't want anyone to know who I am. You got to accept fucking reality. You're either going to grow or you're going to die. And maybe you won't die today, but you're going to just die in a fucking stalemate in your life. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a very horrible way to live. I think the people who live longest that I've noticed, at least in my personal circle, that are probably like close to their hundreds, I guess, almost hundreds or early hundreds, I guess, on my buddy's side, is they're always working, and they're either outside doing shit on their fucking farm, or whatchamacallit, where they grow roses, garden. um, you know what I mean? And they're just always moving, always working, and their mind is working. They've kept reading books, they've kept talking and interacting with people, and they haven't just, well, this is the point where I die. I just wait to die. And I think that's what people do with sales. They just wait to die. No, no, no. I can only intro. I can't close. So I'm just gonna wait to die.
No, I think
That's all
yeah,
that
no,
happens.
I think that's exactly right. They're well, I think they go into it a lot of times too, expecting to be turned down, and so and I think you get over that if you've never really done sales. I used to do a cold calling like yourself, Carlos. I did cold calling where we were getting people to switch over their long distance carrier back when I was probably 19 or 20 or something like that. If you've never gone through those kind of conversations and you sort of get through it. And now with the street performing aspect too, you're asking people for money all the time. So yeah, that training back then when I was 19 came in handy. I didn't have any hangups. You see a lot of street performers who do have hangups about asking for money too, which is the same as the closing different, same problem, because they're just like, well, you just gave this great show and now you don't want to ask for anybody for money. It's like, there's a
Yeah,
disconnect
exactly.
there, it's like a real disconnect. It's like in this society now, people don't want to fucking offend people more so, and they rather go hungry than offend people.
You know what you could do? Now, I don't know. You may not. You know your market way better than me. I just randomly thought of this. if you're doing all your stuff outside, you should have like a little fucking mini table, or I don't know, however you set up and shit on
Right,
the
right, right.
ground, or it is. And have you ever heard of Kunaki? I don't know if they're still in business, but Kunaki is basically you can print on demand, like from hundreds or whatever, a bunch of DVDs and shit like that.
Okay.
Or I guess probably burn it yourself. You're way better than I am with all that. So fucking but you know what I mean? And then just put it out there. So you do your show, be like, hey guys, I really appreciate you guys if you want to throw a tip. But if you don't, totally understand. It's all good, no worries. I've actually got a $10 DVD or $20 DVD you guys can buy with the little manual that shows you exactly how to do some of the tricks that I just did today. So if you want to do that, donation box is here, and the whatever we call it is here, and it's kind of like an alternate close, and you'll probably get fucking sales, dude.
Yeah, there's some people who the problem with that usually when it comes to street performing is that you're designated differently. You're not a vendor. So if you become a vendor, then you have a whole new series of issues legally, and it usually requires permitting or whatever like that. There are people who have come up with some clever sort of different ways of doing that, but
Yeah,
for the,
maybe in
for
the
the most
wording.
yeah for the
This
most part,
DVD with a donation of
yeah,
$20.
yeah, people have done that too. Yeah, I what I'm thinking about doing is to because people have often found that people see me show tip, the real sort of like the 1,000 true fans or whatever you want to call them, the people who like to hang around after and talk to you and so forth, to sell additional like T-shirts or something, on the website. One of the ideas I had was to sell T-shirts depending on what city I was in. So if I could find a distributor to print them, you saw me in X city, and so it's more personalized. Like if they saw me in New Orleans, it would say New Orleans on it. If they saw me in, Timbuk fucking 2, it'd say that on it. So I thought about doing something like that too, where it has a little more expensive perhaps because the one-off sort of thing, but more personal by the same token.
That's pretty cool shit. What if you fucking drove them to a website? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that could then sell them on the site.
yeah. I think that's a
I
good.
have a bunch of cool shit you can watch for free. All you need, if you're actually interested in putting and getting that, just throw your email address down on this piece of paper, and I'll send you guys. I'll put you in the list or whatever the fuck you say, and I'll send you, 15 tricks or some shit, magic tricks. I don't know. And yeah, dude, that might be better because then you're not selling, you're actually giving it away. It's just an email address, and then
Right.
you fucking
Then you
you
sell the
sell
shit out of it.
site.
Yeah,
Yeah. You have you got your own real list of fans. You know
yeah,
what I mean? That's a real list.
yeah. It's something I've been working on for a bit and is evolving. For people out there listening to this is kind of it's maybe not exactly how it goes, but I think for the most part, this is something that could be valuable because I think people, it's hard to say go read this book on sales and stuff like that. People are, I don't know, they don't like that kind of shit. But the real people who are interested in that are already doing it, so you don't have to tell them. It's the people that are like sort of on the fence and they know they should be selling better and stuff like that. And I would say there's some great movies like Glenn Ross has that excellent 10-minute scene where Alec Baldwin just like slams everybody and sort of this is what real closers.
Yeah, coffee for closers, bitch.
That's right, coffee's for closers. Put that
My
coffee down.
My
Yeah.
car is fucking my watch is more expensive than your fucking car out there.
What's my name?
Drove into that piece
Fuck
of
you
shit.
is my name. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you is mine. I love those. You know what? I watch those movies sometimes and just try to skip to the speeches because that's what I love. I'm like, I just kind of want to get to
that. Yeah. There's great one. You can see closing tactics in Boiler Room.
Yeah, exactly. I love that one.
Ben Affleck has some great ones where he says, if I could do X for you, would you take take 200 shares? He's got that languaging down too. He has they must have studied a bunch of people and stuff.
Oh, dude, I know for a fact. I think it was the Boiler Room.
Right.
His script that they were using is the exact same script I used, and I know where they got it from because I got it from fucking Jordan Belfort.
No, The Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Talk about a
got that.
closer.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at that shit, and I remember watching this, and we were all like, "Holy shit!" And then we watched The Wolf of Wall Street, and the same shit, obviously. And I'm like, sounds like me. Holy shit, this is fucking legit. I use this exact. So I remember when I was watching, I'm like, I wonder if people are gonna just kind of be like catching on to this shit now. Like, it's been sold, but now it's a movie. The public knows this was a secret art.
Yeah, exactly. This is like
Like,
handed down from druid to druid or something. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, you had to pay $3,000 to get it. Now you got to just watch The Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I missed out.
no doubt. A few years ago, or maybe like a year and a half or 2 years, when The Wolf of Wall Street, like when those books came out, like I don't know when he wrote them, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago or earlier, I came across them long before I ever heard there was a movie or whatever, and I read about because there's two books. There's The Wolf of Wall Street and like Catching the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know what the sequel is. Great books if people haven't read them. But on top of that, there was around that same time, because he was sort of like, I guess he was resurfacing from all his like legal troubles, perhaps. There was floating around the actual Stratton Oakmont like scripts. Like there was a booklet or something,
right.
where because I mean, say what you will about his ethics at that period in his life, and I don't know the man personally, but one of the things I really was interested in about him and his companies and stuff was he took like people that were like 17, 18, 19 and turned them into like millionaires, like literally within like a year. Like I remember there was a kid, I think there's like a documentary or behind the scenes thing about the movie where he talks about how this one kid had this horrible, I think it was like an Irish accent or something. He sent him for speech training and all this kind of stuff. And within a year, he said, if you worked there and you only made, and maybe it says this in the movie too, if you worked there and you only made like $250,000 a year or something like that, you were considered a piker. You could,
yes, I remember that. That's funny as fuck.
Yeah, so they had the script. You just had to like learn the script and stuff. And I remember following up and finding a video of one of the guys who worked there and stuff, and him talking about just getting good at that script, because you could literally take that, and some of those guys that worked for Belfort have gone on to other huge success because that's just a skill. Once you have it,
once you know how to fucking prospect, fill your pipeline, and close, and you can use that on a phone, it doesn't matter if there's a fucking apocalypse, you can fucking survive. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. I still don't get it. Like, this is, I think, one of the most useful skills in the world. Like, what if you fucking are a big prepper and you fucking have a bunch of guns, which I do, and everything. But what if you run out of fucking bullets? What are you gonna? You can't buy any. You better know how to sell and close so you can, like a spy, go ahead and get some fucking ammo from somebody else instead of trying to rob them. You know what I mean? It's one of the most valuable skills for all across the board. Everybody's got to learn how to fucking persuade, seduce, close, whatever you want to call it.
I was just gonna say that a lot of people think of it as a very isolated fashion of just like selling a product or service to somebody, but really, every time you come into contact with somebody else, whether it's a business environment or relationships perhaps or whatever, you're selling.
Yep.
You're persuading. You're using these same sort of things to get what you want, basically. So it's probably the most important skill a person can have.
Hey, so before we close up, we're doing we're gonna see if we can get Chris on. I think you said next week, right?
Yeah, on the 21st. Come hell or high water, we'll have Chris Haddad on, who's a copywriter of some renown, who's just rocked whatever he's ever touched, basically. We have some questions people have sent in, so we're gonna ask him those. I know you posted some on your page and stuff, Carlos. So we have a bunch of questions we're gonna ask. We're gonna really dive into it. Chris has his own. He sort of transitioned from being a person with clients to writing his own stuff and building up his own business. Yeah, hopefully, provided we get all the logistics together, we'll have Chris, who's a fantastic guy, on the 21st next Tuesday, I guess, or we record them on Monday, so whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. Man.
We won't get
Hey
into
guys.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully everybody had a kick-ass day. Hopefully you got a lot out of this call. Maybe you were able to apply it, send it to a buddy if they need it, whatever it is. Hopefully you got a lot out of it, and we'll see you guys next week. Carlos signing off.
Yeah, if you guys have, because this one will tie in perfectly with having Chris on. If you guys have any sales questions, Chris is one of the guys that can answer them because I mean, copywriting is just salesmanship in print. So if you got any sales questions that stem from this particular podcast, send those in as well on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Takeover Tuesday podcast. Just post them right on the front. And yeah, we'll look forward to episode 8 with Chris Haddad. Have a good day, guys. And we'd like to also thank Ben Sound of bensound.com for the intro and outro music. Later.